to what I hope you'll find is a very interesting evening. My name is Peter Larson. I'm the chair of this tiny organization called Canada Talks Israel-Palestine, and I'll be here. Is that okay there? That's what I asked for. Is that okay in terms of lighting in the audience? Okay. We're very happy to be holding this event here tonight in this wonderful hall, which belongs to Ottawa's First Unitarian Congregation. And I'd like to ask Anita McLean, who is a member of the congregation, to welcome us to her facility. Anita, would you come up, please?
Good evening. I am very pleased I'm actually the chair here of the Global Justice Working Group. And I would like to extend a very warm welcome, first to Dr. Jabareen and also to everybody else who came here tonight. I would also acknowledge that we are on Aboriginal, not on unceded Aboriginal territory. And our congregation is working on Aboriginal issues. That's our first priority for a couple of years here. And that's very important. As you know, we've had a Truth and Reconciliation Commission working very hard here, and it's nice to see that we and our natives are getting closer. And a dream of mine is that this would happen in Israel. But of course, it's not going to happen under the present leadership. But one day, I hope that they can have a reconciliation and live together in peace. And I'm very pleased that Dr. Jabareen is going to meet with our Truth and Reconciliation Chair, Senator Murray Sinclair, tomorrow morning. So I think that's great. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Anita, and thank you to the First Unitarian Congregation for hosting us here this evening. So I said the event tonight is organized by this small group called Canada Talks Israel-Palestine. It's a Canadian human rights organization. On the flip side of the document that was on the chair, one side was Dr. Jabareen's extensive and very impressive bio. On the other side is a little bit of information about our organization, Canada Talks Israel-Palestine. And you'll see from that document that our motto is raise the issue, but lower the temperature. Now, of course, the issue we're talking about is the Israel-Palestine issue, which is a very contentious and very emotional issue. And there's a lot in Canada, as elsewhere, often a lot more heat than light. And so our objective is to try to have a rational, serious conversation about the issue, and in particular, with respect to Canadian policy on this issue. Now, I do a lot of public speaking on the Israel-Palestine issue. And one of the questions I get asked frequently is, why do you concentrate on tiny little Israel? There are so many human rights abuses in the world. Why would you focus, perhaps unfairly, on the tiny little Israel? And so I love this question when people ask it, because it gives me the opportunity to answer. And I have a couple of parts in my answer. The first is that I'm actually fairly proud of my country, Canada, for a lot of the stands it's taken on human rights internationally. Canada generally has a good reputation internationally, certainly compared to many other countries. We're very vocal about human rights abuses in Iran, or in China, or in Sri Lanka, or in Darfur. But we also have some significant blind spots. We never really criticize atrocious human rights abuses in, for example, Saudi Arabia. We don't say very much about the situation in Egypt. And we systematically overlook or ignore reports from Israel that come from organizations like Human Rights Watch or Amnesty International or the United Nations. We have a blind spot there. So I raise this issue not to single out Israel. I want us to apply the same measures to Israel that we apply to every other country. There's no reason why Israel or Saudi Arabia should get a buy on this. They should be exposed to the same criticism and the same standards as Canada. The other reason why I like to focus on Israel, and I think we should focus on the Israel-Palestine question, is that while Israel may be tiny geographically, it's actually quite a big issue. Israel denies rights to nearly 11 million Palestinians. Some of them have been stateless refugees for 67 years. Even with the Syrian crisis, there are more Palestinian refugees than any other group of refugees in the world. It's an ongoing issue. It is not a tiny issue. It's a substantial issue, and one that Canada should pay attention to, not the least because we voted for the creation of Israel in the first place. We were partly responsible for this issue. If in 1946, 47, instead of saying to the Jews, we don't want you here, if instead of that we'd said, come, bring your lawyers and your doctors and your artists, we would have had a better Canada. And there would have been a lot fewer issues in the Middle East today. So we have some responsibility. But our invited guest tonight, Dr. Jabareen, is not going to talk about those refugees. Nor is he going to talk about the Palestinians who live in the West Bank or in Gaza. He's going to talk about a third group of Palestinians, those who live inside Israel, the sons and daughters of those people who escaped the Nakba in 1947-48 and still live in Israel as citizens of Israel. And he's bringing a message of hope, and I hope he's right, and I hope you will listen carefully to what he has to say. He'll talk for about 30 minutes. After his talk, there'll be plenty of time for discussion. Now it's time to introduce Dr. Jabareen, and I'd like to invite Diana Ralph, who is the Ottawa Chair of Independent Jewish Voices Canada, to do so. Diana, thank you.
Wonderful crowd. Peter already has said it, that too often people in Canada hear only the Israel narrative about the conflict in which Palestinians are either invisible or demonized. When the concerns of Palestinians do get covered, we mostly hear about the occupied territories, the settlements, the siege of Gaza, both very important issues, but less often we hear about the plight of Palestinian refugees. But the oppression and outrageously discriminatory laws and informal policies faced by Palestinian citizens of Israel get very little coverage. So it's very important that you are here tonight to get caught up on this important issue. According to the Israeli narrative, Israel is, quote, the only democracy in the Middle East because non-Jewish citizens are allowed to vote and serve in the Knesset. It is crucial that we understand how false that claim is and stand in solidarity with Palestinians living in 48 Israel. Our speaker tonight is himself a Palestinian member of the Knesset and also of the Arab Joint List of the 13 out of 120 Knesset members. He was the founding director of the Arab Center for Law and Policy, Dirasat, who has strongly advocated for equal rights and full citizenship for the 20% of Israeli citizens who are Palestinians. As staff attorney for the Association for Civil Rights in Israel, ACRI, he helped to win several legal victories for Arab-Israeli land rights, Arabic language rights, and fair representations in public bodies. He holds a law degree from Hebrew University and a doctorate in human rights from Georgetown University Law Center. In addition to all the other important work he does, he teaches courses on law and social change, minority rights, and legal status of Palestinians in Israel. He is here in part to find out what Canada can teach Palestinians and Israel about how to treat First Nations people. As a Jew who is committed to full justice for Palestinians and First Nations people, I am honored and delighted to introduce our speaker tonight. Please welcome Yousef Jabareen.
Good evening, everybody. Assalamu alaikum. I'm really honored and happy to be with you here. And I would like to start by thanking the organizers of this evening. So many thanks to my colleagues at the Canada Talks Israel-Palestine, President Peter Larson. Peter, thank you very much for this invitation and for organizing my trip here. Thanks also for Anita and the congregation here for having us in this wonderful place. And thank you, Diane. Where's Diane? Thank you for also this warm introduction. The conflict in the Middle East is very complicated to address it in less than 30 minutes. However, I will do my best to share with you maybe more personal experiences on the ground that would basically exemplify much of the issues that you will hear about and that we discuss. But I would like to start by saying that when I speak about the vision of hope, I speak about the vision of human rights. I believe that, first of all, I'm a human rights defender. Before being a Palestinian, before being a citizen of Israel, I'm a human rights defender. And I want to believe that my analysis of the situation back home comes from this perspective and not from an ethnic perspective. And I would like to say that sometimes, in spite of all the difficult situation back home, I feel that I'm lucky that I'm on the human rights side of the movement. I'm the one who is asking for full human rights for all. I'm the one who's asking for full democracy. I'm the one who's asking for equality, for justice. So I'm lucky to be affiliated with these values that I guess everybody here cherish. I was born in a town called Faham. Faham is part of about tens of entirely Arab Palestinian towns and villages who survived the war back in 1948, who were not expelled, who were not killed, and who remained within the border of the newly established state of Israel and were granted Israeli citizenship, although for the first 2 decades they were, or we were, under military rule. The number of the Palestinians who used to live in historical Palestine before 1948, it's about 1 million and a quarter, 1,300,000. Out of them, within the border of the newly established state, only 15 to 20% were not expelled and survived the war. The rest of our people, about 1 million Palestinians, became refugees, either in the West Bank or in the adjacent Arab countries, Jordan, Lebanon, and Syria. Back in 1948, only 160,000 survived the war and continued to live within the newly established state of Israel and were granted Israeli citizenship. And since then, there has been an ongoing struggle to achieve full rights and full equality, which still we have not achieved and we still have a long way to go. So that's one group of the Palestinians that we grew up from 160,000 back in 1948. Now we are about 1.5 million. 1.5 million Arab, Palestinian, who hold Israeli citizenship. So within the border of Israel, we constitute a national minority, ethnic minority, linguistic minority, Arabic, Vietnamese, Hebrew, a religious minority, mostly Muslims, but also Christians and the Druze, but also an indigenous minority, because basically we continue to live in our homeland. And we were granted Israeli citizenship because we continue to live in our homeland. In Arabic, the word citizenship means muwatana. And the origin of the word muwatana is watan. Watan is homeland. So basically, because we survived the war and we continue to live in our homeland, we hold the Israeli citizenship. So it was not given us as a gift from the newly established state, but it was an integral part of our way of struggle and our way of survival. So 1.5 million Palestinians now constitute a substantial minority within Israel. As you see the numbers, our number has doubled about 10 times between 48 until now. However, our percentage has not really changed. We were about 16 to 17% back in 48, and now we're almost the same, about 16 to 17%. And that's because of ongoing Jewish immigration all the time to Israel. In 1967, Israel occupied the rest of historical Palestine. And some of the Palestinians became refugees for a second time, moving from the West Bank to the adjacent Arab countries. And now, in the area of the West Bank, we speak about 2.5 million, about 3 million Palestinians. In Gaza, about 2 million Palestinians. So we have now this second group of Palestinians who are denied the basic right of freedom, if not to speak in a legal perspective, the basic right of self-determination. But it's the basic right of individual freedom of everybody who lives there. So we have one group of Arab Palestinian within Israel, the Arab Palestinian minority, 1.5 Palestinians constituting about 1/5 of the Israeli population. And it's an ongoing struggle to achieve our rights for equality, for recognition, identity recognition, and for political participation. Second group of Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza, denying their freedom, and now for about 5 decades under harsh military rule that basically interfere in all areas of their life. And the third Palestinian group is the group that I was basically referring to back from 1948, the refugee group. Over 5 or 6 million Palestinians. So here, as you see it, following up with Peter's starting point, about 11 to 12 million Palestinian people, none of them is enjoying full rights. None of them. 1.5 million Palestinians are facing systematic discrimination, ethnic-based discrimination within Israel. About 5 million Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza ongoing suffer from the Israeli occupation, struggling for basic freedoms within, hopefully, an independent Palestinian state. And the third group of the refugees, that although there was a clear UN decision back from 1949 that they have the right to come back to their homes and to their lands, they are still being denied this right. So that's how we could basically speak about the situation of Palestinians today, just from a human rights perspective. Palestinians in Israel struggling for basic rights of equality, full democracy, political participation. Palestinians in the West Bank and Gaza under Israeli occupation struggling for basic freedom and independence. And refugees struggling for now 7 decades to fulfill their basic right to return to their homes. Now, the irony within the denial of the rights of the Palestinians, that other group, newly immigrants to historical Palestinian areas, are enjoying full rights, or quote unquote, are enjoying full normal life in the area, while the indigenous, the native people of the land, they are denied these rights. When it comes to the state, the 1948 borders of the state of Israel, the reality that my community live in. You live in your own homeland, and you see how people who immigrated to the country, supposedly, my citizenship country, are enjoying more privilege and rights than what you have. In my PhD dissertation, I have researched the Israeli legal system. And even for me, it was quite shocking to see the wide scope of Israeli laws that exclude Arab Palestinian citizens by definition, granting rights or privileges only for Jewish citizens. Maybe you're familiar with the law of return, that if you're a Jew and you're a family of a Jew, you have an automatic right to come to Israel and to claim citizenship. While I'm, as a Palestinian, as a native resident of the land, the current legal situation in Israel, that if I get a spouse from the West Bank, could be my even cousin, or just my love from Palestinian community in the West Bank, I don't have even a legal right to live with her within Israel, because there is no legal way to bring her, or to bring him, if the spouse is from the West Bank, to live in Israel. I mean, it's irony that nobody could live, nobody could understand it, unless it's against any notion of fairness. But that's something that you could maybe hear about, immigration laws only for Jews. But take the example of the symbols of the state. I didn't realize how the symbol of the state could be excluded once, could be exclusive for the Jewish community, until I was elected to the Knesset a year and a half ago. There's the excitement, of now being in this position of representing your community and your human rights values, but then you are in the Knesset, and all the symbols, the national anthem, the flag, all the pictures around, all of them are Zionist ones. All of them are exclusive, you can't identify with them. So I remember that my first moment in the Knesset, how I had to leave the plenary because I can't stand and be part of singing the Israeli national anthem, because it speaks about Jewish, or Jews are coming back to Israel after thousands of years. So how could I identify with this? So the notion of belonging, the notion of equality as a citizen in the state, has a serious flaw there. And that's the symbols. But it also comes with, about laws that deals with land ownership. The laws that would give special status to the Jewish National Fund and the Jewish Agency. And that's by law, like by definition. The law would give a special status for these organizations. And these organizations, by definition, serves only the Jewish community. So I started with immigration and the issue of symbols and the issue of land ownership and then the issue of religious services. For example, the fact that in all the Jewish areas there are elected religious officials who will run basically all religious affairs. There is no similar authorities within the Arab community and mainly within the Muslim community. There is no religious leadership that are recognized by the country as religious leadership. And sometimes, tiny things, for example, when the Muslim feast would happen, when Ramadan begins or ends, these are decisions that, we would see what's the decision of the Palestinian Authority or of the Arab countries in order to decide on that. Because there is no elected, and there is no recognized leadership from our community within the state. There is also all these laws when it comes to political participation. The law in Israel says, and that's back to the Knesset and the election, that you could be disqualified for being, candidate to the Knesset if you negate Israel as a Jewish and democratic state. That's what the law says. But I have to tell you that, as a human rights defender, I can't but say that Israel can't have all these tens of laws that exclude me as a citizen, and Israel could be still a democratic state. I mean, that doesn't go together. And as a law professor, I was teaching that to my students. And as a politician, if I want, to be faithful, to my values and to my human rights values, I also will continue to say that, knowing that I might be in danger of being disqualified in the future. But I have to be honest with myself. But I give this example as a clear violation of basic right of freedom of speech. As a citizen within Israel, I can't present my hope or my vision for a better future for everybody. I mean, my clear argument is that the best for the two peoples is to have full democracy, is to have equality for all. Not a Jewish state that gives special status, superior status for the majority group, but it's the majority only when we speak about Israel problem, when we speak about the entire historical Palestine. So it's almost a minority, it's almost 50-50. So you're in a situation that basically if today a Jewish state would mean that you accept the fact that Jewish citizens have superior status over you, although you're the native and you're the indigenous resident of the land. Now, in my dissertation, I was also looking at the experience, the American experience, and mainly the civil rights movement. And my main argument there has been that the situation today in Israel in dealing with the Arab Palestinian citizens is similar to the situation of African Americans before the civil rights movement, until maybe the mid-60s. Which means that today Israel still has this hierarchy in its citizenship. There is a first-class citizenship enjoyed by Jewish citizens, who enjoy all these privileges promised by the law, by definition, the ones that I just mentioned, in immigration, and in the symbols, and in political participation, and in land ownership, and religious services. And there's the Palestinian citizens, 20% of the population, who are denied all these rights or all these arrangements. it's not that they are only denied this arrangement, but they are not given sometimes any alternatives, like the example that I gave in, that if you have a spouse from the Palestinian spouse, you can't even bring them to live with you in your camp, in your country or your village. So you have to choose between your homeland or your family. Either it's a split family, but you live in your homeland, or you leave homeland in order to be with your family. And I'm speaking about cases that I'm familiar with, about my friends. A colleague of mine who did his PhD at the US, and he got to know a Palestinian woman from Bethlehem. And when both of them finished their studies, they want to go back, and there was no legal way to live together in Israel, because law doesn't enable her to get any permission to be in Israel. So you live with this irony. And I wanted to emphasize that this process of legislations of law that exclude Palestinians is still going on. So what I mean that the Jewishness of Israel, it's still being deepened and deepened with the time. And unfortunately, in the last few years, especially under the Netanyahu government, the government is pushing Israel to more and more exclusive laws that would violate human rights principles, and I would say anti-democratic laws. The last one was actually enacted, a few weeks ago, and it specifically targeted Palestinian members of the Knesset by giving the Knesset for the first time ever the authority to expel current serving members of the Knesset. There are some requirements, they need like 70 votes out of the 120, but still we are a minority, we're like in the joint list we're about 13, we're 13 out of the 120. So you could find in a historical moment 70 uncased votes to say that you're expelled, you can't serve in the Knesset anymore. But it's not the idea that they will have a majority or not, but the idea is that basically the majority is telling you that even your service in the Knesset now is under our mercy. If you don't behave well, if you are too noisy, if you make troubles, we could start the process of expelling you. And I'm telling you, from my personal experience, my feeling before the law and after the law has changed. Because before the law, there was no authority to expel me from the Knesset. So you would feel more confident about everything you do. After the law, it's the majority and the government and people in the coalition give you the feeling that they are superior. Now they could initiate the process of expelling you. So you better be quiet. But I think I already told you I'm not going to be quiet in issues that are related to the values that I believe in. And I'm not going to be quiet if I feel that I'm treating as an inferior in my homeland. And I remember a lot of moments when I, in panels with Jewish colleagues, from the law faculty. And in this discussion after I finished my presentation, I will still say, well, Yousef, well, we know all these discrimination, blah, blah, but maybe you have to accept that. And then I look, and I tell them, look at my eyes. Why should a person like me accept to be treated as inferior in his homeland? I'm not an immigrant. I'm in my homeland. And I think that's the basic notion of fairness, of justice, of equality. It can't be democracy if it doesn't guarantee equality. And this is not the discrimination of today against African Americans in the US, or maybe today against Aboriginals in Canada. Because it's a systematic exclusion in the law itself. As I said, it's like tens of laws that create this hierarchy in Israel's citizenship. Now, in order to understand this picture, we can't not to talk about my people in the West Bank and Gaza and the refugees. Because the same state that is denying me as a citizen of Israel my right to equality, which is now definitely well recognized right in all human rights discourse, is also has been controlling by force, by military force, my people. Now for 5 decades in the West Bank and Gaza. And the same country is being denying about 5 million refugees from coming back. Or at least give me the chance to decide if they want to come back, or to be compensated, or but at least to recognize their rights. So when I see this systematic denial of basic human rights of my people, whether they are citizens or under Israeli occupation or refugees, you could understand why I'm here. I'm here because we have no chance but to hope that human rights must overcome. And that we can do it. We can do it because we have to believe that justice will overcome. And when I see the current government is basically leading, I would say the two people, but definitely leading also mainly the Jewish people to how to describe it? I wouldn't say to nowhere, but no hope. I feel that it's a responsibility of all of us, Jewish, Palestinians, Arabs, but also Canadians and Americans and Europeans, to be vocal about these issues, because the human rights are becoming, an international issue. They are not anymore an internal issue. What I'm witnessing in the ground in the last few years, the Netanyahu government is basically continuing to expand settlements in the West Bank. Some key ministers say clearly that they would like to annex Area C's to Israel. Area C's is the areas between the main Palestinian cities, which is about over 50% of Palestinian land in the West Bank. So basically what I'm saying is that the process of Jewishness of Israel is still going on within Israel, but the process of occupation is still going on in the West Bank and Gaza. And the process of expelling people from Palestine by saying, you violated your residency requirement, or you violated your visit requirement, etc. It's still going on. And tens of thousands of Palestinians, whether in East Jerusalem or in the West Bank, are all the time being now also denied their residency status. So the process of 1948 is still going on. It has never stopped. And this is exactly the dangers that I see. Netanyahu's government basically is not speaking seriously about two-state solution. What I see that they are implementing on the ground is a one-state solution, but it's a one-state in which the Jewish have control it. It's a one Jewish state in all historical Palestine, and within that state, Palestinians will enjoy some kind of self-autonomy in the main Palestinian cities of Ramallah, Bethlehem, Jenin, Tulkarem, Nablus, and that would be like less than 10% of the area of historical Palestine. And even that, not within any kind of a state. One, it's kind of, connection of identities. So that's what I'm seeing that it's going on the ground. On the other hand, you see that the Palestinian leadership, along with all of the Arab countries, all of the Muslim countries, are coming up with the Arab League initiative. Over 50 Arab and Muslim countries saying that we are ready to accept a deal of 2 Palestinian states on the border of 1967, which means that the Palestinian leadership is saying that we would be sufficient for the deal. We would accept only 22% of the land of historical Palestine, which is the border of 1967. I mean, what the international community wants more than that? The native indigenous Palestinian community who used to own all of historical Palestine and to be the vast majority of historical Palestine in terms of land ownership, in terms of the population. Their leadership are saying that in order to get the peace, we are going to accept the deal of two-state solution when we only will have 22% of historical Palestine. But even that is not being really a platform for a change or a platform for a breakthrough by the international community. So I would finish by saying that these are the three maybe human rights issues that must be addressed by the international community in order for justice to return to Palestine, and in order for the Holy Land to be the Holy Land that really preserve the basic human rights of the inhabitants and of the residents there. It's full democracy and full equality. It's a freedom for the Palestinians and the return of the refugees. All of them, we could address them from a pure human rights discourse. Doesn't matter if you are a Palestinian, if you are a Canadian, if you are a Jew, if you are American. If you cherish human rights and if you cherish these values, you must support these demands. Thank you very much.